This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of No Waco. This is your host, Debbie. Welcome back to another episode of No Waco. I'm your host, Debbie, and today we have a very special guest here in the studio. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Cunningham. I am a writer and have grown up in Waco my whole life and love to be here.
Yes, and you already answered the question. So you've been in Waco your entire life, and you are an author, and we're here to celebrate your new book that you just wrote. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I wrote a book. It's a young adult book. It's a coming of age story. It's about a group of high school guys that are led by this kind of strange mentor figure throughout their senior year, and he leads them through these rites of passage and really challenges them to kind of recognize that life comes to an end at some point, and you've got these precious moments to make the most of the time that you have left. And that sounds a little morbid, I know. You're thinking about death, but it's a reality for all of us. And so it's like, well, what are we going to do with the life that we have? And I think for young guys, and especially the young guys in this book, that's a question they haven't been asked before or been asked to think really seriously about. And so when he does that, it really challenges them and forces them to deal with some of the questions and some of the dreams they have and the impact that they want to make on the world.
I love that. And so tell me where this book is available, how people can find it.
Yeah, I mean, for every book, I guess, the answer is always Amazon. You can go to Amazon and buy a book. But if you're in Waco, go to Fabled. That's my favorite bookstore in the world.
Shout out, we love you, Fabled.
Yeah, it's my favorite bookstore in the world. I love Kimberly and Blake. They're close friends, and I'm so glad they brought that dream to life here. It's made a big impact. And so you can buy the book there as well.
All right, amazing. And, of course, tell us the title. You haven't even told us the name of it yet.
Yeah, I should do that, right? It's called One Night in a Thousand Years. And so where that title comes from, One Night in a Thousand Years, is a phrase that Emerson used. And so he's talking about, and this is integrated in the story of the book, so you'll see this theme come through. But he, when Emerson writes about it, he talks about if the stars came out only one night in 1,000 years, people would go out. How men would go out and look up and adore the city of God that had been revealed. It's something along those lines. I butchered the quote, but it's basically that idea that if the stars only came out one time every 1,000 years, we'd look up and be like, wow, what is going on? This is amazing. But the stars are out every night. And so it's this reminder that the beauty of life is here with us right now. We just have to acknowledge it. We've got to recognize it. We've got to appreciate all the gifts that we have right in front of us.
Yeah, and you are a Waco native, a Waco dad, a Waco family man, and this book is about family, and it's set in Waco. Tell me why you decided to do that.
Yeah, it's set in Waco because it's based on and I got to be careful when I say this, it's loosely based on a true story. So I had a very similar experience to what happens in the book in high school. I was a part of a group like this. Now, the plot is made up. It's very much fictionalized for entertainment value in a lot of ways. But kind of the core, the foundational premise of the book is very much true. I was in a group like this with these guys. We had a leader that led us through these rites of passage that challenged us in this way. And so, obviously real details are sprinkled in and out, but, it is fiction. But it's based on a true story that happened here. And so it's fun to show Waco off, even in the book. Different locations show up throughout the pages that everyone from Waco will know.
I love that. And again, it's just so important to have that representation of Waco and to showcase our city. Have you gotten a lot of response from it? What have other people said about it so far?
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been a ride. I've written for a long time. We were talking about this before.
You've done a lot of books.
Yeah, I've written quite a bit, professionally and personal projects too. But this one is really connecting with people. And I kind of knew it would, just because of the nature of the story and sort of the themes of the story are more universal. They appeal to more people. But it's also that Waco connection. People, because it's based on a true story, loosely based on a true story, there's a lot of real people that were impacted by this story. That year, those guys that got together that senior year, that model lasted another 18 years. And so it impacted guys for 18 years. And so that's hundreds and hundreds of young men and their families that kind of know this story. And so they're bought in. And so it has made an impact, hopefully in a really powerful, positive way. I think it has, with people that were connected to the story and with people that just identify with that, with those themes and that call to make the most of life.
I love that. And the artistic process is always, a process. So with that, what has kind of your journey started out as, and what does it become now? What does that look like?
Yeah, for this book specifically, or just in general?
Well, if you just want to talk about your artistic journey, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I can do that. I mean, it's tied. Well, it's tied into the story. So, when I was 18, when I was a part of this group, one of the things that the guy that led the group did was he handed all of us a journal, and challenged us to write. And that was really the first time that I had done that. Obviously, I'd written for school and things like that, but to go home and open a blank journal with a pen and think, okay, what am I going to do? That was the first time I'd done that. And so it really, that moment kicked off this whole life of writing that has happened since. Maybe that was a cursed moment, maybe it wasn't, but so I started to write poetry. I started to write little stories. I started to write thoughts in this journal, and that just developed over time. I got the bug. And it really, for me, writing is and has always been a way to think clearly. And so to try to develop these thoughts or think about the world or the questions I have about the world, it's like writing is how I do that. And that has been the case, and I've done that through story. I've done that through a lot of different mediums within writing, poetry or fiction or nonfiction, whatever it is. But that's where that journey for me started.
I love that. And that's also fantastic to hear that, you started at a young age and now you're able to see the fruits of your labor, and being able to see that, journey as an artist. With that, what is some advice you would give somebody who's just now starting to write or is doing something that they love?
Man, I would say I actually have a lot of advice around this.
As a writer,
I think the biggest piece of advice, and it's probably broader than just writing, is that if you want to be good at something, you just can't quit. I mean, that's really it.
Just do it.
If you keep doing it for long enough, you're going to eventually get good at it. I think a lot of people lose faith in themselves or lose, they lose the spark because something didn't catch immediately or somebody had a negative comment or whatever it was. And so it kind of kills that inside of them and they shift to something else. That's totally normal. And I have done that in a lot of other areas of my life. But with writing, and advice that I would give to writers is like, man, just keep doing it. Like, you've got a long life to live. It's okay if the best thing you write is when you're 65 or 70 or 80. That may be the case. But you gotta put in this time up to that point. And eventually you'll get where you want to be.
Yeah. Now the big question is self-publishing or traditional publishing?
Man, I've
That's the hard question.
It's a hard question. I've been down both roads, and have had good and bad experiences down both roads. So I think that I want to be careful what I say here.
Don't make any of your publishers mad.
I think that long-term, there's a lot of value in owning your work, especially if you have a really long-term vision of your work. If you have a short-term vision of your work, which is not necessarily a bad thing, if you want a book out that kind of makes an impact and, lands on a shelf and hits at this moment in time, I think traditional is probably your way to go. If you're thinking long-term, big picture, building a body of work that you own and want to manipulate over time and maybe convert to something different later, if that's kind of your mentality, then I think self-publishing is a great option.
I love that. And again, everybody's journey is different. So it's so important to hear how different entrepreneurs and artists and creatives approach something. So then, people can probably be inspired and then take that little kernel of information, tuck it away or use it right now. So that's amazing to get to hear. And again, just know your journey that you've been on through this. With this, you also said you've done poetry. Have you ever done any local open mics or any poetry nights?
No, I've never done that before. That would be a new thing for me. I'm not opposed
open mic
to
poetry every third Saturday at Cultivate.
Well, there it is. Okay, I'll have to stop by. I need to watch and learn before I step up there and do it.
I see.
No, I do like writing poetry. A lot of the poetry that I've written is it's more story based. It's sort of like a hybrid of poetry and prose.
I love that.
And so I'm telling a story through it as opposed to just thinking through a single image or a single question like a lot of poems are. But that's a fun outlet for me. I think my sweet spot though is probably similar to 1 9 1,000 Years, kind of more traditional storytelling.
I love that. And are you going to be at the author event at Fable coming up?
I am. I'm very excited
Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's coming up this week, I guess, on Thursday. I'm mostly excited about it to meet other writers, truthfully.
Me too. Like, I just want to go and meet everybody and be like, what are you working on?
What I'm most excited about is just to connect with other people that are trying to, make creative work and put it out in the world. Obviously, it's a great time to meet readers and, engage with the bookstore and just kind of come together as a community. But one part of that I am excited about is just to see what other people are working on.
I love that. Well, that's absolutely fantastic. With that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. And now for a word from our sponsors. And now, back to the episode. And we're back. So we're just talking about the exciting author event that's going to be happening at Fabled, and how it's going to be a great opportunity for the community to connect, meet authors, meet readers. One of the first questions I love to ask when we get back from break is, what would you like to see more of in Waco?
Man, we're up here on the 21st floor of the Alico building and just looking out at Waco and seeing how much it has changed. It's really amazing. I think what I love about Waco and what I want to see more of in Waco is just people taking chances. And I think we've seen that over time. That has Chip and Joe have obviously led the way in a lot of in a lot of respects, but looking out, seeing people take chances, seeing people follow dreams, build businesses, put books out, put music out, open the thing that they've been dreaming about forever. That's what I love to see, and I want to continue to see that. I think that there's a lot of that energy in Waco, and that's been bubbling up for a long time. And so, just seeing too, people that I have that are similar to my age or are slightly above me or slightly behind me, really betting on themselves, investing in the dream that they've had. And putting it all out there. That's what I'd love to see. Mm-hmm. And whether that's a book or an art project or a business, that's so fun. And would love to continue to see more of that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And that's absolutely amazing. Especially being a native Wacoan, you've been able to see that growth from the beginning. I was going to ask how old you are, but how many years have you been in Waco?
I'm 37.
So you've been in for a long time.
Well, yeah. And I did move away for a time. Me and my wife lived in Austin for 7 years at one point. Mm-hmm. But I grew up on the outskirts of Waco, so in Crawford, more or less. Wow. And then moved into town and wound up going to Baylor. There's a long story there. I wasn't going to go to Baylor. I was going to go to Oklahoma, but changed my mind at the last second because she was going to Baylor.
Ooh, for a girl.
Yeah, I know. And it usually doesn't work out, but it did. The bet was, I was right. So yeah, I've been in Waco for a long time. We moved to Austin, like I said, and came back. And Waco a lot had happened when we were gone. It just felt like a different place. It felt like there was something new and big happening here that really just grabbed us. And obviously we had so many roots here, so many relationships here. It's just home.
I say this so many times on the podcast, but that is literally almost every creative's story. They either came here for Baylor or grew up here and then left for a little bit, went somewhere cool, and then came back. So just bringing that melting pot here and really just taking those experiences from other places in the world and being able to bring them here and adapt them into Waco. It's been absolutely amazing to get to see that, especially with, again, our entrepreneurs and artists and creatives, the people who are doing things in Waco. Why do you think it's so important for you to be in Waco right now?
Right now is, I can talk about it from the perspective of my work, but also just from the perspective of my family. Family's here. Mm-hmm. My parents live in this area. My wife's parents live in this area. Our kids get to see their grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles, and it's just an amazing thing. I mean, even today, my mother-in-law picked up my kids from school.
Aww.
And so just having them grow up in a place where family's all around them, that support is all around them, they're loved and seen and known and encouraged, is there's no price on that, honestly. So that's a good enough reason to be here. But when you take my work and just the values I want to write about, the sort of stories I want to tell are rooted in places like this, where people know each other, where they still can walk into a coffee shop and see people they know and love and have known and loved for many, many years. I like stories like that, so this is a good place to be for that reason too.
I love that. That's absolutely amazing. And I mean, it sounds like you really value family and like have made this community around you, especially with Fabled. Is there anyone else you want to shout out that's helped you along this journey?
Man, so many people. One thing that I don't talk about enough is my wife. I talk about her just that I love her, but with my work, she's always...
You're legally obligated to whatever you say next.
Maybe so. She is and has always been the person who reads my work first. And so, as soon as I finish something, first I tell her about this crazy idea I have. I'm like, hey, what if I did a story like this? And she'll react one way or another. And kind of guide me in certain ways. But when I finish, she's always the first person that reads it, and always has been. And so she has read way, way, way more of my work than anybody ever will or should, and has just encouraged me. But also, I mean, from a practical point of view, she also edits it too. She'll like have a pen and be like, hey, you said this here, you need to say this here. And that's always been really helpful. So shout out to her for being my editor.
I love that. That is so sweet. And of course, I mean, I wish my husband would read my works. He refuses to, but that's fine. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But it does sound
I
like...
make her do it.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Oh,
like,
okay.
hey,
So it is under force.
I like print it and put it on her nightstand. So,
hey, that's what happens. Hey. That's what happens. That's the curse of the author and the author's partner.
Big time.
Well, we're so glad you came on today. Of course, give us all your social media, where we can find you, find more about you, find the book, all the things.
Yeah, you can go to my website, craigscunningham.com. You can find me on Instagram, same handle, at craigscunningham.com. The best place to buy the book, we talked about that earlier, but Fabled, if you're not here, Amazon, you can definitely find it. It's also a big part of the book, and the success of the book over the last few weeks has been the audiobook. So the actor James Vanderbeek recorded the audiobook, and so it has been that's added a lot to the its ability to spread.
I'm excited
for
about
people
that.
to know about it, and so that it's actually up for an audio award.
Wow.
In a couple weeks, we're going to LA for this event. Woo-hoo. And so it's a finalist in the young adult category, and we'll see what happens. I feel like just
you'll come back
there,
an award winner.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
I feel like the underdog, which is fine with me, but you never know.
I love that.
So. And sorry, I forgot the question.
No, you're fine. It was just plug yourself.
Plug
all
right.
your things.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, the audio awards.
You can give them
up.
your text number if you want people to text. No, kidding.
Excited about that, and just I love to connect with people. So if you find me, reach out, say hello.
All right, perfect. And now it's time for your soapbox moment. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners today?
My soapbox moment is just to. I mean, as it relates to the book, just that this is your one night in 1,000 years.
I love that.
The stars are out now. It's not, you're not waiting on anything. You don't need to hope for something in the future. Everything is right in front of you. It's right inside of you. You can make the most of life as it stands today. And that's a challenge. That's a gift. And we get to do that.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Find us everywhere on all social media platforms, KNOW_Waco. Check us out at roguemedianetwork.com, and we're on YouTube under Rogue Media Network. Check out nowaco.com.
This has been a Rogue Media Network